It was a quiet Saturday afternoon, one of those rare peaceful moments where the sun hits just right and the kids can be heard giggling in the backyard. I was finishing dishes by the kitchen window, watching my twins, Eli and Ava, playing tag near the garden sprinkler. They're 8 years old, curious, loud, and full of energy. Typical kids. We've lived in this HOA-governed neighborhood for about 3 years. It's tidy, quiet, and mostly filled with retirees and families with older kids. I always tried to stay friendly, but low-key. Then there's Karen. That's not her real name, of course, but it fits too well. Mid-50s, tightly styled hair, lives 2 houses down, and sees herself as the unofficial HOA enforcer. At first, her complaints were passive-aggressive. A note in our mailbox about kids' toys cluttering the yard or reminding us of the quiet hours when my son practiced piano. But last weekend, things escalated. As I wiped my hands and turned to pour some lemonade, I suddenly heard shouting. Angry, shrill yelling. I ran to the back door and saw Karen standing at our property line, practically screaming at my kids. "You're damaging the grass. That sprinkler is wasting water. This is unacceptable behavior," she bellowed. My daughter was crying. My son stood frozen, eyes wide. I stormed outside, adrenaline surging. "Karen, you do not yell at my kids. If you have an issue, you speak to me." She waved me off like I was an annoying mosquito. "Then teach them respect. I'll bring this to the HOA." My hands trembled with anger, but I managed to stay calm. "Do that. But if you ever speak to them like that again, I will take action." She stormed off, muttering about entitled parents. I comforted my kids, but my mind was racing. Something about her reaction felt off. It wasn't just irritation, it was aggressive, and it scared them. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed the scene over and over. I wasn't going to let this go. I needed proof in case it happened again. The next morning, I ordered 3 outdoor security cameras. 1 for the backyard, 1 on the garage, and 1 hidden near the side fence. I didn't want to start a war, but if Karen was going to come after my family, I was going to protect them by the book. It took about a week for the cameras to arrive. I didn't tell the kids. No need to make them feel more anxious than they already were. They'd been a bit jumpy around the backyard ever since the yelling. Ava especially didn't want to play outside alone anymore, and that broke my heart. On a Sunday morning, I set up the cameras. 1 was discreetly tucked under the eaves facing the backyard. Another covered the side of the house and fence line, and the last one sat just above the garage, angled toward the street. High definition, motion triggered, with cloud storage. If anything happened, I'd have a crystal clear record. I told my wife, Lisa, about the plan. She agreed. Karen had crossed a serious line. A few days passed without incident. The kids were slowly regaining their confidence, playing closer to the house. I figured maybe Karen got the message. Maybe she'd finally stay in her lane. Then came Thursday at 4:12 p.m. I was reviewing some camera footage that night out of habit when I saw it. The kids had been jumping rope near the back patio, and Karen was walking her dog along the sidewalk. She stopped, stared, then, to my shock, she walked onto our property, leaned over the short fence, and started yelling again. "You two, again? Stop screaming like little maniacs. People are trying to live in peace here." Ava dropped the rope. Eli grabbed her hand and pulled her back. Karen stood there, hands on hips, just berating them like they were criminals. The audio was clear. Every insulting word, every threat to call the HOA board. I felt my blood boil. I downloaded the footage immediately and backed it up in 3 places. This wasn't just her being nosy anymore. This was verbal harassment of children on private property. The next morning, I filed a formal complaint with the HOA. I attached the footage, timestamped and annotated. I didn't hear back for 2 days, then an email, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. After reviewing the footage, we are taking this matter seriously. Ms. Karen has been cited for violation of Article 4, verbal harassment and intimidation of residents." I couldn't believe it. The HOA, who usually sided with nitpicky rule followers like Karen, had actually ruled in my favor. Later that afternoon, I saw her checking her mailbox and pulling out the envelope with the HOA seal on it. She opened it right there. Her face turned bright red. She spun around and glared at my camera like she knew. She knew she'd been caught. I smiled from inside, but I had a feeling this wasn't over. After Karen got her citation, there was silence for about 48 hours. I half hoped it had humbled her, that maybe she'd back off now that the HOA had finally clapped back. But Karen doesn't strike me as the "learns a lesson" type. By Saturday morning, the neighborhood felt tense. Karen's glares had intensified every time I walked to the mailbox or brought the trash bins in. I could feel her eyes on me. A few neighbors even stopped chatting when I passed by. Clearly, Karen had started whispering her version of events. I imagined it: those kids are unruly, or their dad is spying on everyone with cameras. I didn't care. I had the truth on my side. But Karen was just getting warmed up. Sunday afternoon, I noticed a strange post on our neighborhood app. It read, "Some residents have been caught secretly recording others without consent. This is a violation of privacy and may involve legal consequences. Be aware of who's watching you." No name, no direct accusations, but the intent was crystal clear. Several comments followed, all from her circle, people who'd lived there for decades. "Scary, should be illegal." I knew something was off about that family. I didn't respond. Instead, I screenshotted everything. That night, Lisa and I sat on the couch going through the footage from the last few days. That's when we saw it. Tuesday, 11:27 p.m. The backyard camera caught movement. Karen, in a hoodie, walking past our fence with her flashlight aimed at our house. She crept along the sidewalk, paused in front of the garage camera, then scurried back down the street. She was trying to scout the cameras, probably looking for a way to claim I'd violated some rule. We submitted that clip to the HOA, too. And this time, we copied it to the neighborhood forum as well. I captioned it simply, "Since privacy is suddenly a concern, here's some footage from this week." It exploded. Some neighbors defended her, she was just walking her dog. Others weren't buying it, who walks their dog dressed like a burglar at midnight? The HOA sent another response. Due to repeated incidents involving Ms. Karen, a formal hearing will be scheduled. Additional citations have been issued. I saw her that evening pacing in front of her house, phone in hand, yelling into it. At one point, she pointed directly at our house, probably calling one of her bored friends. But what Karen didn't realize is that I wasn't going to be intimidated. Not anymore. I had proof, witnesses now, and the growing support of the neighborhood. This battle was just beginning. The week of the HOA hearing arrived, and I won't lie, I was nervous. Not because I thought I'd done anything wrong, but because anyone who's ever dealt with an HOA knows that logic and fairness don't always win out. Sometimes it's politics. Sometimes it's who knows who. But I had something stronger than gossip. I had evidence. The hearing was held in the clubhouse, and a few neighbors showed up just to watch the drama unfold. Karen was there in full force. Clipboard, blazer, smug expression like she was about to sue Apple. She didn't make eye contact with me. Not that I cared. I was too busy reviewing the timeline I'd printed out, complete with QR codes linking to video clips. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it simple and factual. I explained the initial yelling incident, how it scared my kids, how I installed cameras on my own property, and how they caught her yelling at them again, plus that bizarre flashlight patrol in the middle of the night. The committee asked questions. I answered calmly. I could tell a few of them were genuinely disturbed by the footage. One of the older members muttered, "This is absolutely not okay," after watching the second clip. Karen's turn came next, and oh boy, she came in swinging. She accused my children of being rude, loud, and out of control. She said the cameras violated her privacy and that I was trying to embarrass her in public. She even claimed I had doctored the videos, but the HOA president cut her off. Ms. Karen, the footage was submitted directly through our secure system. We verified timestamps. Nothing was altered. Karen's face twisted like she'd bitten into a lemon. In the end, the decision was unanimous. She was fined $750 for repeated verbal harassment, trespassing, and HOA code violations related to resident safety and behavior. She was also placed on probationary status. Any further complaints against her would lead to suspension of voting rights and board privileges. The moment the meeting ended, a few neighbors quietly came up to me. "Good job. She's been like this for years. About time someone stood up to her." Even better, 2 weeks later, she put her house up for sale. Whether she was forced out or just couldn't handle the fallout, I'll never know. But one thing's for sure, the moment she left, the whole street felt lighter. The kids play freely now. No more watching their backs. No more crying because a grown woman can't control her temper. And the cameras? Still up, still running. Not because we're scared, but because they remind everyone that respect goes both ways. If you've ever dealt with a Karen in your neighborhood or just love seeing justice served, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more wild real-life stories, and drop a comment below telling me your craziest HOA moment. Trust me, I read every single one. And who knows, your story might be next.